saw it. There was the estate plan and last will and testament folder in the stack. I don't usually snoop, but curiosity got the better of me. After all, I had been the one to ensure they had a roof over their heads. It wasn't out of the ordinary to ponder how things were set up for the future. So I opened it. And that's when I noticed the words that made my stomach plummet. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, their savings, and their property. There isn't a single mention of me, except from some general phrases like loving both of their sons equally. That is why they ensured that their golden child would inherit everything, while the son who kept them afloat received only a footnote. I felt foolish. Here I was, bending over backward for them, making sure their bills were paid on time, making sure they never went hungry, while they sat back and planned for a future in which I received nothing. And Eric? He wasn't simply lazy. He was entitled. He never raised a finger to assist them, never donated $1, yet he had persuaded them that he deserved everything. Perhaps because he was the younger son. Perhaps because they had always pampered him. Perhaps he understood just how to influence them. Whatever the reason, they'd made their decision. I sat there staring at the paper, my hands quivering with wrath and betrayal. How long did they plan this? Had they always planned for me to be their free financial safety net, offering nothing in return? Have they ever appreciated what I accomplished for them? I wasn't sure how long I'd been sitting there, but my father saw I wasn't scanning anything. "Hey, Jake, what's taking so long?" he inquired, going back into the room. I didn't even bother hiding the will. I raised it up and looked him in the eyes. "So this is how it is?" I inquired, my tone unnervingly calm. "Everything to Eric? After everything I've done for you?" My father's face paled for a second, but then he sighed, as if I were a small child having a tantrum. "Jake, it's not what you think." "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage, helping with groceries, fixing the house up, while Eric does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters?" Dad was embarrassed, but instead of explaining himself, he simply said, "It's complicated." That was it. There was no apology or attempt to defend it beyond those two worthless sentences. Just a poor apology and an eager expression, as if he was waiting for me to drop it and return to being their personal ATM. I should have gone out right then, but I wanted to hear from each of them. So I called out for my mother. When she came in and saw the will in my hands, she didn't respond well. She had the decency to appear guilty, but what she said made my fury boil. "Jake, honey, you don't need the inheritance," she whispered softly, like if she were doing me a favor. "You have a good job. You're independent. Eric, well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That was the moment something inside of me shattered. They were not even ashamed. They understood exactly what they were doing, and they believed it was entirely right. They had spent years encouraging Eric's laziness, and now they planned to reward it by giving him everything while dismissing me as an afterthought. I took a long breath, tightened my jaw, and placed the will on the table. "Got it," I said, my voice strangely calm. "Glad to know where we stand." Then I turned and marched out of the house, disregarding their protests and slamming the door behind me. They had made a decision. Now it was time for me to make mine. I did not return to their place after that. I did not call. I did not check in. For the first time in years, I let them deal with their own dang problems. If they needed to mend something, they could figure it out. If they wanted groceries, they could make their own way to the store. Most importantly, what if the mortgage bill showed up? Well, I wasn't the one paying for it anymore. The hush lasted almost 2 weeks. At first, I guess they thought I was simply pouting and would crawl back like usual. Perhaps they expected me to calm down and apologize for questioning their choice. But as the days passed with no news from me, and, more significantly, no financial assistance, you could almost sense the change in their mood. Then, one afternoon, my phone vibrated. Dad messaged, "The property taxes are due." That was it. Number, "Hey, how have you been?" Number, "Sorry for what happened." Number, "We really appreciate everything you've done." Just a cold transactional message, as if I were still a walking ATM that they could access whenever they wanted. I stared at the computer for a time, almost amused by how predictable the results were. Did they truly believe they could just demand money like nothing had happened? That I would continue to serve as their financial safety net, even after they made it quite plain that I was disposable? I gently typed back, "I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all." It took exactly 5 minutes until my mother called. I let it ring. Then another text came in. Mom messaged, "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to speak. Now that their debts were stacking up, a reality was finally staring them in the face. I waited an hour before responding. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now you can live with it. I figured it was the end of the day. I had made my position clear, and no part of me felt terrible about it. But then Eric decided to join in. His text arrived late that evening, and the moment I saw his name appear on my phone, I knew it was going to be something nasty. Sure enough, when I opened it, I was met with utter entitlement. Eric messaged, "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal, just help them out like you always do." I almost laughed. Is this not a significant deal? He actually seemed as if I had no right to be upset about this. I wrote back, "No, I think you've got it covered, since you're the favorite and all." Eric messaged, "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man, it's just money." Oh, suddenly it was only about money. It didn't matter anymore now that he had the inheritance. The hypocrisy was astonishing. I shot back, "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay for the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, my mother texted me again, this time in full guilt trip mode. Mom messaged, "Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're just abandoning us?" I had to take a deep breath to keep from tossing my phone across the room. Abandoning them? I'd spent years ensuring that they never had to struggle, while they coddled and rewarded Eric's lazy behavior. And now that they'd had to face the repercussions of their own actions, I was the bad guy? I was not falling for it, not this time. I replied, "You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I can imagine my mother gasping loudly. She had a knack for playing the victim, even when she was in the wrong. A few minutes later, my father sent another text, and this one made me furious. Dad messaged, "We're not asking for much, just enough to cover the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish." Selfish? The word caused my blood to boil. I'd been bailing them out for years, devoting my own money, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I had done all a good son should do. So, how did they repay me? I made sure I received nothing in exchange. And now that I've finally stood up for myself, I'm the one being selfish. I tightened my jaw, took a big breath, and texted back, "Number, I'm done." Then I shut off the phone. They'd made their choice. They were now going to have to live with it. The stillness lasted one day. I knew my parents would not give up so quickly, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next. The next morning, I received a notification on my phone, a bank transfer request. I grimaced as I unlocked my phone to check. It was from my mother. She had genuinely asked me for money. As if I were an ATM. What is the amount? $3,500? I looked at it in surprise, partially chuckling at the arrogance. There's no message. There's no explanation. Just a cold, blatant demand for the precise amount required to cover their outstanding mortgage. They didn't even ask anymore. They just assumed I would give in. I declined without hesitation. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring. Then followed another text. Mom messaged, "Jake, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I took my time before responding. Because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric. Another call. Declined. Then another text. Mom messaged, "We're going to lose the house if you don't help us." Oh, this was an emergency. After years of exploiting me as a walking wallet, they were finally facing the repercussions. I wrote back, "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter." A few seconds later, Dad joined in. He said, "You're really going to let your parents become homeless?" That one had me laughing out loud. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost comical. They weren't broke. They were not going to be put on the streets. They simply didn't want to go into their personal savings because they were accustomed to me covering everything. I disregarded them for the remainder of the day. That night, I received an SMS from Eric. Eric messaged, "Dude, just send them the money already. You're making this a bigger deal than it is." I clenched my jaw. Did this entitled little jerk really think he could lecture me? I wrote back, "You mean the same money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it?" His response came quickly. Eric messaged, "You know I don't have that kind of cash right now, right? So now it's about affordability?" He was fine with me draining my accounts, but whenever it was his turn, he had nothing to offer. I responded, "Guess you better figure it out then, bro. You're the one they chose." No response. I went to bed feeling strangely relieved, as if I had finally broken free from years of manipulation. However, the situation worsened the following day. I was at work when I received a call from my apartment's front desk. Receptionist. Hey, Jake, your parents are here. I almost dropped my phone. What? She paused before adding, they're saying it's an emergency, and that you won't answer their calls. Oh my God. They showed up at my flat solely because I stopped paying their bills. I took a deep breath and pinched the bridge of my nose. Please don't let them up. I'm not expecting them. There was an awkward moment. They're being kind of pushy. I clenched my jaw. I don't care. They can leave. I hung up and instantly received a text from Mom. Mom messaged, we downstairs. Open the door. No question. There's no explanation, just another demand. I didn't respond. Another text message from Mom. Jake, we're not leaving until you talk to us. I breathed sharply and stood up from my desk. They were not about to back down. Fine. I was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. I snatched my keys and stormed downstairs, my blood seething. I was not scared. I was infuriated. The sheer chutzpah of these guys to walk up uninvited at my house and demand money as if I were their personal ATM. Not even a phone call beforehand. Not even a half-hearted apologies. Just a straight-up ambush. They actually thought they could corner me into submission, like if I were a naive child? I yanked the door open, and there they were. Mom, Dad, and, of course, Eric, all standing in a close formation, as if they were preparing to hold a family intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, her typical disappointed mother expression locked and loaded. Dad stood rigid, hands in his pockets, his face a mix of frustration and entitlement, as if he couldn't believe I was forcing him to do this in person. And Eric, the tiny leech, had the guts to appear bored. Like the entire scenario was only mildly inconvenient for him. As if he was not the cause of any of this. When Mom saw me, she went into full theatrical. Mom. Jake. Finally. We need to talk. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. Number you need to leave. She blinked, as if she was unable to absorb what I had just said. Excuse me? You heard me? My voice was calm, controlled, and firm. You don't get to just show up at my apartment demanding money. That's insane. Dad gave a quick scoff. Are you seriously going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I gave out a frigid laugh. A petty grudge? Oh, you mean the one where you judged I was good enough to pay your bills but not worthy of inclusion in your will? Is that a grudge? Mom gasped and clutched her chest, as if I had just hit her. Jake, that is not fair. We merely did what we believed was best for our family. I tilted my head. Best for the family? You mean the best for Eric? Simply say it. Silence. A prolonged, heavy silence. Eric, who had been unusually silent until now, finally spoke up. Look, man, I don't want to get involved in this. I did not ask for anything. I turned to him, finally letting go. No, you simply sit back and accept all that is given to you. You are 28 years old, Eric. Get a damn job. His face grew crimson. What the hell, dude? I stepped closer. You've heard me. Do you want to inherit the house? Begin acting like a homeowner. Do you want to be the golden child? Begin paying their damn bills. I'm done being your personal banker. Eric averted his gaze, his attention drawn to the sidewalk. Mom took a deep breath and refocused her guilt trip. Jake, he's your brother. I nodded. Yep. And I've been there for him longer than you have. Dad's face clouded. You're being selfish? I laughed, a genuine laugh. Oh, that's rich coming from you. I gestured between them. You two agreed that Eric deserved everything, while I deserved nothing. And now when it's time to pay the price for your decision, you're attempting to coerce me into repairing it for you. Not happening. Mom's voice became sharper. We thought you'd be mature about this. I raised an eyebrow. Mature? You mean I should simply accept that I was betrayed and continue to pay your bills? Because, let's be honest, that's what you wanted. Dad stepped nearer, attempting to loom over me as he had when I was a child. We reared you, Jake. We provided you with food, clothing, and everything else you needed. The least you can do is help us right now. I looked him dead in the eyes. I already have. For years. You repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lips twitched. We thought you'd understand. I exhaled and shook my head. Oh, I understand completely. I understand that I was never your family, but rather a paycheck. Silence. An oppressive and unmistakable silence. I turned to see Eric, who was still trying to be invisible. And you? What is your excuse? You had years to mature, organize your life, and contribute, but you didn't. You knew they'd take care of you. And when they're gone, you just expect me to step in, right? Eric eventually snapped. What would you like me to say, man? I did not ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right, you did not ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened and then closed. Nothing. He had nothing. Mom tried one final guilt trip. Jake, we are family. Family takes care of one another. I stared at her for a long time before responding. Exactly. So, why didn't you care for me? She froze. There are no words, no comebacks, nothing. I exhaled slowly, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here. I turned and walked back inside, shutting the door behind me. My phone buzzed before I even got back to my couch. Dad sent a new text. Wow. After everything we've done for you, are you really going to leave us? I smirked and typed back. Number, you abandoned me. I'm just now accepting it. I pressed send. Then I blocked their numbers. But I had no idea that blocking them would simply make matters worse. Things quickly spiraled out of control. Less than a day after blocking them, I began receiving posts on Facebook. My parents were never very tech-savvy, but they knew how to voice their problems online, especially when they felt self-righteous. At first, I assumed it was just my parents being dramatic. After all, that was their go-to move, blowing out family turmoil for everyone to see. But as I browsed through their feeds, I noticed it wasn't just about me no longer helping with bills. The posts were camouflaged as family affection, but they were carefully veiled attacks on me. Mom had posted something about how she didn't raise her son to be so selfish, and how true family helps each other no matter what. A number of her friends responded that I was a disappointment and so out of touch with what really matters. Then, Dad responded with his own post. So-called family members should never abandon you when you need them the most. We gave our children everything, and this is how they repay us? My son, who should be aiding us in our golden years, has decided to desert us. He tagged me and added the passive-aggressive "I hope you're happy" at the end. The real kicker, however, came from Eric. I should have known he'd join in on the drama. He published a post full of falsehoods. Some individuals believe that family is all about money. They do not realize that family is about love and sacrifice. I would do anything for my parents, but some individuals don't understand that. They're too caught up in themselves to know that true love is aiding those who reared you. He even made a disguised shot at me. I wish some people could understand what it truly means to be family. I love my parents and appreciate everything they've done for me. That was it. That was my breaking point. I sat there staring at the television, stunned. How had things come to this point? They flipped the script and made me the villain, the self-centered son who refused to support his sacrificial parents, the son who didn't appreciate all the love they gave me over the years. How could they? I had always been the one who worked hard, contributed, and never complained, and now, somehow, they had convinced themselves they were right, and they were telling everyone that I was the issue. I didn't want to react immediately. I took a step back, collected my thoughts, and waited a few hours to ensure that I wasn't acting out of rage. But when I thought about it, I decided I couldn't let them get away with it. If they were going to drag my name through the mud, I was going to correct the record. So I grabbed out my phone and began typing. I created my own Facebook account, which I kept for close friends and true family, and wrote a lengthy update. I was not interested in playing their game. I did not want to get mired down in petty back and forths. I wanted to tell the truth. This is what I wrote. I know I've been silent for the past several days, but I can't keep it up any longer. My relatives have been spreading false information about me online. They've painted me as the villain, the selfish person who refuses to assist my parents in their time of need. I'm here to set the record straight. I've always assisted my family. I've been helping with bills, paying for groceries, and supporting them in any way I can since I was able to find work. However, there comes a moment when you can no longer give without being respected. Over the years, I've seen my parents favor Eric by giving him everything: the house, the money, and the attention. Meanwhile, I was expected to continue providing without ever being treated as equal. I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, that's just how family works. But here's the truth. Family should be reciprocal. When I learned that my parents had left everything to Eric in their will, I recognized how one-sided our relationship had been. They did not give me a second thought. They've made it apparent that I'm only the one they can rely on when things go tough, not the one they truly want around unless it's convenient for them. For years, I've been responsible for paying for their lifestyle. I've paid for vacations, bills, and even assisted